I was once asked, "What is the scariest thing that ever happened to you?" With closed eyes, I imagined it all over again. The vivid nightmare that's haunted many peaceful slumbers. It happened 18 years ago, and it still holds the same cold embrace of terror. I don't know if it was my age or my lack of horror cinema influence that makes it traumatizing. Personally, I feel the reason it terrifies me the most is because it frightened a man whom I admire as much as my father. My uncle, who may have seen the worst of war while serving in Vietnam, or the worst of people in his 20-year career as a criminal investigator. I've asked him about these things only a few times, and each time, without fail, he has a small moment of reflection, turns to me, and then smiles, saying, "The gift of voice is precious. Ugly stories should never taint it." He's a reserved man, and I've only seen him make a few expressions over the years. Most of my memories I have of him, he's smiling. A few when he's irate, due to me shaving off half of his left eyebrow when he napped. And one memory where he cried, as my family lowered his wife of 30 years to rest. Looking back, I can't recall ever seeing him express many emotions, which is why my scariest moment will always be remembered as the night I saw fear. It was December, and the nights were getting colder. It took more and more firewood to burn to keep the house warm. Nearing the bottom of the wood stack, my grandmother knew the rest wouldn't last the night, so she asked my uncle to fetch more from the mountains. I knew the part of the forest she was referring to with the best wood to burn was at least a 2-hour drive by dirt road, so I didn't volunteer my services. I was situated on the sofa with a cozy blanket, a cup of chocolate milk, and above all else, Mario needed my help saving his girlfriend Pauline from the evil clutches of Donkey Kong. That's right, there was a girl before Peach, on my brand new Game Boy. Unfortunately for me, my uncle didn't share my sentiment for Pauline's safety, so within the hour we were on our way to the mountains in his 1986 Chevy pickup. I stacked the wood he chopped as fast as I could. Pauline was waiting, after all. The bed was half full when my uncle called out, "Alright, that's enough. The sun's setting." He loaded up the axe and chainsaw while I nursed my splinters. We got in the truck and he looked at me and said, "Good work." Hearing him say that put my feel-good meter on high. I should have held on to that feeling longer because, for the rest of the night, I would feel nothing like it again. By the time we were halfway back, the sun was completely gone from the sky. I remember looking out the window and feeling a kind of peace, watching the silhouette of trees race by, with the pitter-patter of stars twinkling above them. I turned to my uncle and watched as he sang quietly along with a country song from the radio. My eyes wandered, and I watched the needle of the speedometer fluctuate on the bright 3-0. A few seconds later, the radio took away the music and gave only static. My uncle shook his head and turned off the radio. Immediately, I had an awful sense of being watched. My neck hairs stood up and a chill lingered down my spine. Before I could turn, my uncle quickly shouted, "Don't!" I completely froze. My heart felt like it was beating out of my chest, and then it completely stopped when I heard it from the window by my head. And that moment, I can say, is the only time I ever saw fear on my uncle's face. That came from outside my window, I thought, still watching my uncle as he sped up the truck, loudly praying in Navajo. My mind was racing, so I only caught a few words from his prayer. "Protect us, evil. It is staring." I wanted to cry. I wanted it to stop. All these thoughts completely vanished in an instant when the truck dipped suddenly from the bed. I realized whatever it was had jumped in the back. My uncle looked at me, going back and forth with the road. "Look at me and don't turn away," he said, over and over. Then, like before. But this time from the window directly behind me. It was getting harder for me to breathe. I shut my eyes as tight as I could and begged it to go away. A minute or two passed, and the truck dipped again. My uncle looked around and sighed. It was quiet now, besides the truck and the road. He looked at me and said, "We'll have your father do a prayer in the morning, so the evil will forget our faces." At least that's my best translation from Navajo. I remember curling up on the seat and just staring at the radio, watching the time, listening to my uncle sing an old prayer till we got back to my grandmother's house. My uncle has never talked about it. Well, until now. Flash forward 18 years. I was asked, "What is the scariest thing that ever happened to you?" I knew exactly what I wanted to write, but one question kept presenting itself as I wrote it. What was it? I called my uncle at his house in Arizona, and after a long conversation, he reluctantly told me. These are his words, translated from Navajo to its English equivalent. "What I saw was a terrified child, and what I saw behind him was evil. I saw only eyes and hair. Red eyes, like the back end of a truck in the distance. Those eyes were watching you, with evil purpose. I was scared." We talked some more, and even ended up joking about it. I asked, "Why didn't you just hit the brakes when it was in the bed?" There was no laughter, just a long pause. Because it wasn't alone.